ahead and take your seats. We would appreciate it. Thank you all for coming today, especially this cold, wet day. We really appreciate you coming and being here. We do have a lot of people that signed up that want to watch it at their desk. So we have a large group web streaming this right now, so we welcome them as well. And want to thank you for being here for the panel discussion. We're calling it the Year Ahead, Ethics at Georgia Tech. As you know, we had a large focus on ethics in the fall, and we want to keep that going, and we want to keep the conversation going. And so this is an effort to continue that. So I am Lynn Durham. I'm Associate Vice President, and don't know my own title, and Chief of Staff to the President. And I've been at Georgia Tech almost 23 years, so been around here a long time. And happy to be here with you today. So what we hope that you'll take from this today is that a better understanding of our goal to continue the ethics conversation, and that we are committed to that and we want to keep that up. So we're here to answer your questions. But today, you're going to hear from some of our interim institute leadership, and they'll provide you with the latest information on initiatives that are designed to build a strong community of culture, transparency, and integrity at Georgia Tech. So before I begin, I want to introduce each of our panel members. First, I want to introduce Jim Fortner. Jim serves as the Interim Executive Vice President for Administration and Finance. In this role, Jim has oversight of the administrative, business, financial, facility, and budget activities for the Institute. Jim has been with Georgia Tech since 1997 and has 27 years of experience in university, financial, and accounting administration, including 17 years of experience in grants management administration. And beside him is Aisha Oliver Staley. She serves as the Interim Vice President for Ethics, Compliance, and Legal Affairs. In this role, Aisha serves as a member of the President's Cabinet and is responsible for building a strong ethical climate and culture at Georgia Tech, providing decision support to the Office of the President on legal and policy issues, and developing an institutional approach to compliance and risk management. Aisha has been at Georgia Tech since 2011, serving as the Executive Director for affiliated organizations within the Office of Legal Affairs. Next to her is Mark Demianic. Mark serves as the Interim Senior Vice President for Administration. In this role, Mark leads campus services, facilities management, human resources, information technology, and the Georgia Tech Police Department. Mark has been with Georgia Tech since 2007 and has been employed with the University System of Georgia for over 30 years. Prior to this role, Mark previously served as the Assistant Vice President for Facilities Management, Operation, and Maintenance. And then lastly, Jennifer Hubert. Jennifer serves as the Interim Associate Vice President for Institute Planning and Resource Management, which integrates the planning, strategic resource management, financial oversight of the Institute operations, and the analytic support for decision-making for the executives. Jennifer joined Georgia Tech in March of 2015 as the Associate Director of Special Projects and Chief of Staff to the Senior Vice President of Administration and Finance. So please welcome them. Thank you. So just to get us started, we have some questions that were sent in to us prior, so we'll start a little bit with that, and then we will take questions from the audience. But just to get us started, I did want to ask each of you, tell us a little bit about your interim role. You're all in interim roles here at the Institute. If you tell us a little bit about what you've learned, what your key takeaways are from these interim roles. Jim, I'm going to start with you.
Well, my key takeaway, almost immediately, I began to realize all the different things, all the various pieces and parts of Georgia Tech that I never really touched upon much in my previous positions. The Georgia Tech Police Department, facilities management outside of the finance area. And although I appreciated their work, I didn't see it firsthand. And just seeing the level of activity that occurs in these other offices really was a benefit to me, and certainly helped me understand the importance of all of us working together and the good work that occurs across campus. It's just phenomenal, and the leadership that's there in these areas is important to the Institute and the institutional perspective as well. Not just solely concerned about my area, but understanding the benefits of others and how it all ties together for a healthy institute.
For me, the biggest piece was sort of greater visibility into how complex Georgia Tech is. I sort of had a cursory understanding of the complexity of our operations, but in this role, as I interact with more people doing different functions across campus, and then having to interact with some of you to solve problems across campus, it gave a tremendous understanding of how complex our operations are and what it takes to do the work, and sort of gave some insights into why sometimes we have challenges and why sometimes things don't always work as we plan it because it is so complex. So that, to me, was the greatest takeaway. It also gave me a better understanding as to how people work, how different people work, and sometimes just how we view how each other work as well. So for me, it was a good experience in sort of moving deeper into the layers of the fabric of Georgia Tech. So it was a good experience for me.
So similar to that, I guess I get that question a lot. People say, well, what do you think of this interim role? And the best way I can describe it is, well, it's a lot. And it is a lot. To operate this institution from the administrative side of the house, it's a well-oiled machine. It's like running a city. It really is. I always used to say that in my old facilities role, that we kind of run the city of Georgia Tech, but it's truly running the city of Georgia Tech on the admin side, the business side of the house, the facilities management side, public safety, and the police. I've always had a close working relationship with the police. But when it's part of your portfolio, 24/7 constant engagement, it really gave me a real appreciation for what, for example, the Georgia Tech Police Department does every day. But not just police, every unit of the administration division that I oversee. Probably the biggest surprise, or I guess the thing I knew least about coming in, but the biggest surprise is OIT. What a massive organization, how important of an organization it is to our institute, from the simplest form of making our email work every day to the huge enterprise systems that we operate that make the entire business run and allow us to do our job. Campus Services is another large organization, and I've gained a whole new appreciation for them in terms of what it takes to run not the businesses of Campus Services, but also the student services piece of it. It's a real, not an easy enterprise to operate, and give Julianne lots of credit for her role in the interim there running that operation. It's very complex, and it has to stand on its own bottom on the business side, and you're striving to provide the service at the right level, but keep the costs as low as possible, right? Not always an easy thing to do. And, the other piece, OHR, I think the biggest and most pleasant surprise there is what a great group of people that is, that's extremely challenged with a very, very difficult portfolio of responsibilities. We have challenges there because we have some legacy old systems that are still pretty manual. And so you think things aren't moving quickly through HR. That's one of the big reasons why, because we're still trying to catch up and get these systems, better systems put in place. And believe me, we're striving to do that. So all in all, yes, when people ask me that question, I can still say I've loved this opportunity. It's been great, and appreciate everybody that I've been able to establish new relationships with.
So I will echo Mark in saying that it's a lot. I will say I've taken on a lot of responsibility over the last several months, and one of the things that has been just really heartening is how incredible the people are that I work with. People have helped me learn a lot. People have helped foster along the way, and I've just been very impressed. I think that kind of groups have been good about communicating with each other through all of this, making sure that everybody is aware of everything that is happening. I work with so many people now that have just a true passion for Georgia Tech, that have been here for a long period of time, that will work their tails off. I mean, there are people that work for me, I tend to send emails a little late at night and on the weekends. And the responses I get, the people that I see that are in the office working, that are just kind of doing their best because they truly have a passion for Georgia Tech, it's been very impressive. We also have a lot going on, and I think I knew about a year ago that it was going to be a very busy year, that there would be a lot of things going on, and now that I'm in the middle of it, I realize we truly do have a lot going on every day here at Georgia Tech. We have systems implementations, we have brand new buildings that are going up, we have the day-to-day work that needs to get done, the research volume, the expenditures, everything that's just increasing, and again, I'm heartened by all of the hard work and the people that I get to work with on a daily basis. So it's been great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So we're going to dive into questions that we received ahead of time, and then we will take questions from the audience. If you have one as we're going, please feel free to raise your hand. Mia Rainey here is on this side with a microphone. Sherelle is back there with a microphone, and so we will go forward. And I want to thank Mia and Sherelle so much. They're the ones who set this up, and they have done a fantastic job, so I want to thank them for everything they've done. So the first question, I'm going to focus on Jim and Aisha, if you all would answer this, but of course, Mark and Jennifer, if you have anything to add. What steps is Georgia Tech taking to help ensure compliance with the conflict of interest policy?
There's a number of things happening, but really the centerpiece was the establishment of a conflict of interest task force. And Kate Wash, I saw Kate earlier, helped us with that. She led that effort, pulling together a group of constituents from finance, including procurement, from research, and several other areas, and legal affairs, of course, to understand kind of our environment and what we have available in terms of identifying conflicts and then managing those conflicts. And one thing we realized right off the bat was that we have a process for identifying relationships through the conflict of interest system that's managed on the research side. We have a file of vendor records. Wouldn't it be good if we just had a way of monitoring that to understand where we have relationships with a company perhaps, and we're also doing business with that company? That's certainly understandable. We just need to understand where those things intersect so that we can properly identify that and manage it appropriately. So we've established a process where we're comparing those files and receiving a report of anything that matches. Whenever that happens, we have to do something, right? It's not just good enough to, we don't just want to identify the issue, we have to address it in some way. So the way that we've done that is to establish a business conflicts committee, similar to what we see on the research side of the house, where we've established a process first and foremost where there's an intake of the potential conflict. Bing Wong is here and is heading that up. We have an intake process for issues that have either been identified through the file comparison process or through email or some other way of notification. Bing reviews that, logs it, understands it, provides guidance where she can, tries to resolve it. And then we have established a business conflicts committee to review those more complex cases in need of some more review in light of the various policies and procedures. Well, we've added formality to that and something very similar to, again, what we see on the research side, where we're identifying business relationships, identifying potential conflicts, and then managing those appropriately. Aisha, you might have more to share on the committee process.
Well, what we realize is that most people want to do the right thing, but sometimes our policies don't provide sufficient or clear guidance. That sort of is one of the things that came out of some of the challenges of last summer. So the goal of the Business Conflict Committee, sort of dovetailing from the task force, is to sort of take a look at what are some of the practices of our peer institutions, that's some of the tasks that they're doing now. and compare what they do to address business conflicts and see how we can develop best practices around that. So right now, that is their primary agenda. As we sort of fill out that group and sort of work through their knowledge of our operating practices. And I should say this group is comprised of finance and business and accounting professionals across campus. It's led by Tina Clance and Melanie Magenti. I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. So they're working on that. In the meantime, what we've established is the business conflict of interest email. So we get emails that come in where people have questions, just trying to resolve policy, trying to understand what is required. Since September of last year, we've had over 90 inquiries come in from both the academic and the staff side, where we were able to provide resolutions to them. And Bing has been instrumental in doing that and supporting my office that way. The inquiries range from consulting activities, employee startups, board memberships, activities outside of your regular duties, gifts, Girl Scout cookies. It's all range and matter of things, but what it does, it gives us insight into places where our policies are not clear. So sort of our go forward from this would be to sort of take a look at those policies and try to make them clear. But it's been a good learning process for us. And I think the campus has been, extremely forthcoming for the most part in asking questions and in some cases receiving difficult answers. No, we cannot accept these holiday gifts that we typically accept from vendors. And while it may not be the answers that you've wanted to hear, most people have been very accommodating on the first go wrong. Sometimes we have to go back and sort of reinforce, but for the most part, it's been the business conflict of interest process between the task force, the committee, and the email where people log their concerns and ask questions. We have an overall sense and continue to have an overall sense of where our policy shortcomings are, where we need to fill out our policy shortcomings, and sort of periods of time where we need to do some training and communication. So we know around holiday time, for example, it might be valuable to put something out there about what is allowed for holiday parties and gift exchanges, etc. So we're also able to develop information like during certain times of year, these are the type of things that most people will have questions about as it pertains to business conflicts. So we've learned a lot. We're continuing to learn. We're continuing to refine the process.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Jennifer and then Mark on this next question. What about efforts to instill greater transparency to our business systems and processes? What has been done there? Jennifer.
So I think there are several things. Aisha touched upon some of the guidance and the policy that we have out there that perhaps may not be the clearest, or we may have some things that conflict when you look at the Board of Regents versus a certain unit versus the central campus. So we have what we're calling a campus guidance project where we're really we've got about 15 to 20 different things such as conflict of interest, but also some of our travel policies, some of our vendor gifts policies, things where there's just been some confusion over the years. And so we're trying to refine the guidance, update it for the 21st century. There are some things that are a little outdated out there, especially when you talk about things like cell phone policies. But the Controller's Office, Carol Gibson and team are leading an initiative where we're really trying to, again, get to what is the clear guidance here, and let's put it in language that kind of everybody can understand, and we're working to distribute that information and kind of make it more open and the communication clear in terms of what that is. So that's one big area. We also, as a part of the Workday Financials implementation that we'll be launching in July, we think that the system, and we've been doing a lot in terms of the configuration of the system, that's really going to have a lot more transparency into who are the approvers, where does something sit in the approval queue as it relates to financial transactions. So I think there's a lot that is relevant to that. And then particularly in our procurement area, we've also had, there's a fair amount of dollars that flow through our procurement system, as many of you, may know or imagine. And so making sure that we're transparent in terms of having cross-representational groups on RFPs, making sure that we're adhering very closely to the DOAS standards and going above and beyond when we need to. And I think, Mark and his team are especially involved in some of our larger procurements as it relates to facilities and construction too. So,
Lots of opportunities there. Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is simply creating a greater sense of awareness in all of what we do on a daily basis and all of our activities. It's surprising where ethics and conflicts of interest can creep in when you're least suspecting, kind of thing. Just using our experience, Chuck knows, in facilities management, contracts at all levels, tiny, medium, large, extremely large, lots and lots of vendors, lots of communication going back and forth. We have to be cognizant in all of those dealings, from the smallest contracts when we're just hiring somebody to come and repair a leaky pipe, all the way to our $120 million campus center type projects. An example of a way that problems can creep in is if you, for example, in facilities management, for those small pipe leaks, if we keep calling that same contractor over and over and over again, guess what? That turns into a problem. And you don't even realize it because you're trying to deal with the emergency at hand and you know who you can trust to do the work. But when you look at it from a little higher level, you begin to realize, that's not really the right way to do business. We're a public entity. We need to spread the wealth around basically with other qualified contractors who can do the work. And if you don't think about it deliberately, you can slip into that trap. Julianne knows in campus services, lots of opportunities there because you have that business side of the operation that's a different kind of relationship than it is just providing a service to fix something, for example. And so how do you manage that? When is a sole source type of arrangement appropriate compared with when you should go out on the street with an open solicitation? There are good reasons to do both, but we need to think about that very deliberately when we're developing our plans and trying to think about how we do our business. OIT is another huge example of that. Lots of opportunities there with both all the enterprise type systems that we work with in terms of technology, and then research projects and opportunities, sponsors, and how we treat them and what our relationships are with research sponsors. Creating that sense of awareness from day one, I think, is really key, and constantly talking about it. And I think that's the one big thing that I've noticed over this last year, especially since we had our difficulties last summer, is even if the pendulum has swung too far in some cases where we overthink things, we're having those conversations continuously, and I think that's a healthy thing.
Thank you. Before I open it up to questions, a lot of people have been asking about the ethical culture indicator results, and I wanted to give everyone an update on that. So the ethical culture indicator was the survey that went out to campus in September, where we asked about the ethical culture of Georgia Tech. It was run by the BB&T Center for Ethical Leadership at the University of North Georgia. And so we do have the data back from that. And what the president and the executive leadership team have decided is that we want this information to go out first, unit by unit. We want your leaders, the unit leaders, to have a conversation instead of just posting it to a website without any context, without any additional information. We feel like it's really important that you all have those conversations within your units, because what we've done is each unit leader has a chart, and it shows the institute averages for the questions, and then it shows their department's averages for those questions. So it can really see where the discrepancies are or where the issues may be in all these different areas that were part of the survey. And so President Peterson has told each of his direct reports and everyone for those unit leaders that they need to have that meeting with their folks by March 15th at the very latest. And so that is the plan, that you will have that information. Your unit leader or one of the EVPs or someone will have that conversation with your unit. And then after that, we will take the information. The report is actually not finalized yet. All the subjective information, they're still going through that. Remember, there were 4 subjective questions that you could put comments in. So we just have the data, the quantitative data right now. We'll get the qualitative data, we'll finalize the report, and then we will post it on the president's website so everyone can see all of that data. But we really believe it's important to go ahead unit by unit and have those conversations first. And so that will be happening here within the next month. So each of you should expect to have a meeting within your unit. Okay? Let me stop there real quick and open it up for questions. We have additional questions if no one else has any, but I want to open it up. Yes, right here. Let me get the microphone just because we're web streaming. Go ahead.
Thanks, Lynn. This is Ann Lynch from the Scheller College of Business. Yeah. For the version that will be published on the president's website, is that going to be the quantitative or quantitative and qualitative?
No, they will not give us the comments from the qualitative. So those, sometimes you can tell who wrote it. You never know by the exact words. And so they will not give us any of the qualitative information. What they'll do is a summary. And so they'll take that and say, these are the themes we saw, these are the issues we saw, but they won't give any exact comments at all. Yeah. Questions?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Hill. I'm part of the Department of Internal Auditing. Thank you. My question is, what can we do as staff, faculty, and affiliates of Georgia Tech to further the mission of ethics and to do our part in order to aid and assist the Institute to achieve its goals?
Who would like?
All right.
Good one for Aisha.
Listen, ethics issues or issues that involve people are challenging. So I think the first thing is to just be patient as you work through them or as others try to help you work through them. But in terms of sort of supporting a robust ethical culture, it's just disclose, be transparent as is reasonable. I'm not saying managers need to disclose everything, but things that involve processes that support decision-making, there is tremendous value in disclosing that. And to the extent that you're unclear on the process that facilitated a decision, it's pretty important that you figure out what that process was. Because the absence of disclosure on process leads people to believe you're doing something wrong. And what we have found is that in some cases, it's not the case that somebody is doing something wrong. It's that there's no process or defined process that they can point to support decision making. So finding ways in your unit to come up with processes or turning to someone in leadership to say, hey, we do not have a process for this. How do I have a process to support this? So that's one way. Another way is if something comes across your desk that you have a question or a concern about, we want to encourage you to trust your unit leadership unless your unit leadership has affirmatively done something that leads you to believe very clearly that they're not going to answer the question honestly. And so before going around your unit leadership, we're encouraging something comes across your desk or you see something that is concerning, and managers have to be open to answering those questions as appropriately as possible. Ask your leadership about it. Give your unit a chance to address an issue or deal with an issue before the issue begins to escalate. Because the further the issue escalates, the more it goes out of the control of the unit, the institution, etc., right? So it's sort of creating a culture of trust, which begins with managers being clear on processes. It begins with employees feeling comfortable to share with their managers. It's about transparency. It's about integrity. It's about honesty. It's doing not only a good job, but a job that reflects the values that your parents will be proud of. That is all.
Anyone else like to speak to that?
That's hard to top.
Very good.
No, I think it does come back to doing your best. You ask what you can do. I think we all have a responsibility to try to cultivate that workplace culture of mutual respect, listening to each other. I think when we have a respectful workplace culture, a lot of these problems begin to go away. and I think one of the things we've seen happen when that pendulum does swing a little too far the other way is everything becomes an ethical complaint or a conflict of interest, and we need to guard against that, is what Aisha was saying. Many of these things are just employee to employee issues, or they're simple management issues that well-trained supervisors should know how to handle and diffuse at the local level. And I think we've seen there's a need that we need to improve on that. That's one of the things I think that came up in the ethical climate indicator across all the units that we're going to have to work on.
As Aisha mentioned values, and I want to give you an update on values because that is one, as Mark just said, values is one of the issues that came up in the ethical culture indicator, that we at Georgia Tech don't have a set of ethical values that we promote, adhere to, are accountable to and for. And so as part of this process, President Peterson has just put a group of us together. There's about 7 of us on this group, and he felt like it was really important to get feedback from our 4 representative bodies at Georgia Tech. Those are Staff Council, Faculty Executive Board, Undergraduate Student Government Association, and Graduate Student Government Association. And so we got feedback from them on what they felt like should be considered as Georgia Tech's ethical values. And then the leadership got together earlier this month and talked about those and came forward with a list of about, I'm sorry, I don't have it at the top of my head, I think about 10 to 11 of those values that we kind of brought it down to. And now this small group of those 4 representative bodies, me, Aisha Oliver Staley, and there's one other person, and I can't remember off the top of my head, excuse me, are getting together, and we're going to talk about those further. And we're going to bring them down to hopefully a smaller group, maybe 4, 5, or 6 of those values, and then give them out to the campus community for feedback. And so we can get your feedback on what Georgia Tech's ethical values are or should be. And so that process, we really want to get that going quickly. That's not one we want to take months on. We want to take this literally a few weeks. And so we're hopefully going to have our first meeting next week. And then we'll get information out to the campus community because we feel it's really important to get everyone's feedback on that and to find that core group of ethical values that we can all be proud of and that we can all adhere to. And you will start seeing those. Whenever Jim Fortner makes a presentation, he's going to have those ethical values in that. All of us in leadership, or anyone we would hope, would have those ethical values at the core of what you do, and we'll be promoting those throughout campus. Any other questions? Anything else right now? Oh.
Hi. So my question was, you mentioned people who are trained to deal with ethical situations better as managers and supervisors. So is there any plan to have some type of ethical leadership training or something so we have the skill set to better manage that?
Yes.
Great question.
But yes, one of the in terms of building an ethical program at an institution or a company, one of the components of that is a training program. And we, based on everything that we've seen, we think that we need to provide one of those here. Between our current HR training staff who run the integrity and compliance campaign, Mia has been facilitating some of that. And then we're going to build on that where we can develop some sort of management training program where managers have the opportunity to get the training they need to be efficient managers. Those are things that are sort of on the horizon. As new leadership comes in and settles in, they're going to drive a lot of that. But it is something that is part of what has come out of this experience, that it is necessary, it is on the horizon, and hopefully we can implement in the near future.
Training is one of the areas that came out in the ethical culture indicator, the more training. We need to focus more on training in ethics and compliance, and we will do that. The new vice president we've changed the title. It's going to be the actually general counsel and vice president for ethics and compliance will begin mid-March. March 18th to be exact, Ling Ling Ni. And she has built programs from the ground up for ethics and compliance, and she will be doing that here at Georgia Tech. And so we will get started on that to make sure that we are training our staff for what they need to be able to handle those situations. And one more? Oh. Yes, if you could. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sherelle.
From a communication standpoint, what can be done to improve the flow to all of us that are working here when we're finding out from the AJC first? I know most recently is the lawsuit over Sodexo contract. Is there, I know it's a tricky, tough thing, but that would be my question.
Jim?
Those things are hard to predict. A lot of times we have, in that case, we awarded a contract and it's being protested. So, I mean, we don't really get a lot of advance notice whenever a media request is, or a request has been made or some report has been made to the media, but it's certainly on the radar. More communication, we know, it's another thing that came up in the ethical culture indicator as something that we needed to address, but figuring out that right balance, I don't think we've arrived at that yet, and I'll just readily admit that. But trying to understand the right balance between sharing information in such a way that it is understood and it resonates, and you're not bombarding people all the time with emails and announcements and web streams, things like that. There's a balance there that we have to find for sure.
In addition to that, keep in mind when some of these issues flare up, the folks who would probably have to drive communication through are sort of all consumed by sort of managing what is happening. And, you know, the media doesn't give us a chance to figure it out, get the information to the campus, and then they go to press. So that's sort of, we're balancing that as well. There's never an intent for you to wake up and hear about something that you had no clue about. But sometimes it's just prioritizing how we handle the situation and sort of how we manage that flow as well.
And I think we probably, not probably, we need a better understanding of what information we need to get out there. Sodexo, I'll be honest, I wouldn't have thought of, oh, we need to get that out to the campus community. So those are the type things we need to better understand and do a better job with. We are hiring a new vice president for Institute Communications, and so actually 3 of the candidates will be on campus this week. So we will really be looking at all of our internal and external communications, but particularly internal right now, because I think we do need to look a bit more at that. Daily Digest is what we've chosen to be our vehicle to put information out, but we hear that a lot of people don't read the Daily Digest every day. And so we don't want to bombard you with emails every day, but we need to figure out what that balance is and the right way to do that. So thank you. Howard.
Thank you. On that same general topic about transparency and communication, so we all know that the College of Computing has a dean search, and it's been communicated when there'll be public conversations. They get to do presentations. College of Sciences, Campus Services, but these other very high-profile roles that you mentioned, Vice President of Communications, Executive Vice President for Administration and Finance, other people who are in interim spots. What is the intent there to have transparency and for the campus community to hear about these prospective candidates?
We have debated, to be honest, back and forth on not how much information, but whether, again, the campus is interested to know, oh, this candidate's coming in this day for this position. We have a lot of open positions right now that we're working on. It is very normal for an academic search to have an open session like that and a presentation. And so those are following how they normally would be done. I know for communications, all the campus communicators were invited to a session, but the entire campus wasn't. Legal affairs, that group was invited to a session. So it depends on the search, to be honest. But if the campus feels like they need insight into things and to certain positions, we'll certainly listen to that. EVP, the Executive Vice President for Administration and Finance, that's one coming up. We expect to have people on campus. We are in the airport interview phase of that right now. Once they come back with finalists, we are talking right now about what that schedule is going to be and how we do get people to have the opportunity to meet these folks if they want to do that, because that is such a high-profile position on campus. And so we're having those conversations, and if you have thoughts and opinions on that, please let us know. It's not that we're trying to shield them in any way or not encourage feedback. It's just a matter usually of time and interest, and we just don't know what the campus interest is. But I thank you for your question, and we'll certainly consider that. Let me go to one question we received before. Given the recent ethics concerns at Georgia Tech, it is important that employees and students see progress. What are some of the small wins that can be shared with the community, especially at the employee level, to boost confidence that progress is moving in a positive direction? Who would like to take that first?
Well, I think one major change is that the Office of the President has greater visibility into what is happening on campus. I think that's one win. We sort of had a mandate from USG to be faster, to work faster in terms of closing cases. At the time we had that mandate, we had a backlog. So we had to deal with the backlog and get the backlog closed, which of course may delay new cases. But I think closing that backlog by the deadline in a manner that was satisfactory to the USG, I think was another milestone. Employee access to ethics, to me, has increased. Anybody involved in the ethics process, that's a win. That's a space that you can come and sort of share what is going on, and then we can provide you with some sort of access to whatever resources are needed. We've also been able to get more involved on the ethics side because all the cases coming through are not necessarily ethics cases. We've seen some management cases where we have been able to provide support to HR or internal audit and sort of trying to figure out how to best handle cases to further enhance their own processes. That's another win. I don't want to say a win is that we're seeing more ethics point complaints. It's not that we want you to know that you have a space to lodge your concerns. So the fact that we've seen an increase is a value. Part of that value is we've also seen the lay of the land of what some of the concerns are on campus, and some of them are indeed ethical. A large cross-section of them are management issues, which dovetails into decisions that we need management training programs, we need conflict resolution programs, so that things do not snowball and become ethical issues. So that has helped us as well. I think employees should be pleased that we're creating a culture where things that happen in your unit, if they're unfair to you, truly unfair to you, truly concerning to you, there is a forum that you can use, a variety of forums, which I want us to talk about, that you can use to sort of deal with those issues. The conflict of interest, some of those can snowball into ethical issues. The creation of a space for business conflict questions, again, that is also a success for us. I could go on and on and on and on, but I think we've made progress. I think what happened last summer showed us that we had some gaps in terms of how we deal with issues on campus, some of them ethical, some of them other than ethical, and it's provided us with a roadmap to make this a stronger institution.
Jennifer?
I will say also just on a daily basis, the big change that I've seen that I would consider a small or a medium or big win is the conversations that people are having and the questions that they're asking, where there's a free flow of, well, what do you think about this situation? Whereas I think before people would just kind of, all right, let me just do it. Let me, a vendor sent a holiday gift to me. I don't know whether to receive it or not. I don't think that question would have been asked a year or two ago. And so I think the discussions that people are having in the real life situations and how do you deal with this, I think that's been really refreshing to see. And I've seen that. I don't know if all of you have seen it in your units as well. But people are just more open about things that they may have questions on.
And I think a realization of the real need for consistent business processes and systems that meet the needs of the campus users is important, and that's consistent across the campus too. I want to highlight that so that we have systems that are in place and business processes that are in place that are recognizable from one department to the next, and that we're providing that training that's so important for employees to understand the rules of various sources of funds and things like that, and share them such that they're understandable in an easy way, not just a policy statement, but desktop tools and other guidance documents that are available there. And that's really what's behind the Campus Guidance Project. We were planning to do that anyway. As Carol knows, this really just kind of just lit the flame under a lot more folks to jump on that bandwagon. So it's been helpful. Training is another thing. Travis Waugh, several years ago, we established a mandatory training program for incoming employees and employees changing positions that provided basic level financial training at the very basic level, but it was consistent throughout so that they understood where policies were, what offices did, who to contact if you had questions. And that type of information is so important, and I see it that just only growing as we move forward with the new financial system and other enterprise systems that are there, and not just system training, but the policies and the procedures underlying those systems and business processes.
I would just say I also think it's more than just a coincidence that people seem to become more aware, and we heard a lot more about ethics questions and questioning conflict of interest based on the compliance campaign for last year. I don't know how many remember, and we're going to do it again, the Science of Standing Up, that video. I heard so many good comments after that was put out there. I was personally very impressed by it when I saw it, and it kind of created a whole new way of thinking, I think, about that. So I think there's going to be a real effort as we begin that campaign again this year to build upon that. And I think that really seeing it in those terms, real world examples and relatable kinds of circumstances that we find ourselves in every day, I think help people to really kind of internalize those thoughts and think about it more directly.
Aisha, I don't want to get away from what you just said a little bit. You said, aside from Ethics Point, there are different resources or different ways employees can handle issues that they have. Sometimes they're ethical, sometimes they're management issues. What is your advice for employees?
So when there was a mandate, because I want to start from the beginning, because when I start at the end, people say, but you said. So yes, coming out of summer where we sort of were in the midst of having to provide an immediate response on what was happening, there was a mandate, put it in Ethics Point, put it in Ethics Point. So everybody began to do that. Everybody was forthcoming and continued to do that. What we began to realize is that everything, and that's, Mark mentions it, the pendulum swung all the way on one side. What we began to realize is that a lot of what was happening is that we were seeing things that were not truly ethical issues, but management issues. And some of what would cause the delay is that we were sorting through, we could have been dealing with a truly ethical issue, but we had to spend time triaging management issues that should have been dealt with at a unit level. So today I am saying that we have a variety of forums for dealing with issues, including a phone call to my office just to ask a question. Some people do that. Ethics Point for us should be, you have tried your manager, your supervisor, your unit level to lodge your complaint. or they have affirmatively done something to show you that they do not have an interest in doing the right thing. But we want to empower the units to do problem solving, which we'll have to do some management training around that. If there are conflict resolution issues, there is a staff ombudsman, I hope I'm saying that correctly, that can help facilitate that dialogue. We want you to engage your HR business partners as well. Challenge your HR business partners, at least to get answers to questions. We see questions in Ethics Point where somebody is concerned about not getting a merit increase. That's not necessarily an ethical issue unless you're saying that there is some reason that you have identified that is unethical for why you didn't get the raise. So what we want is your first level is to ask a question. And that question may be to your manager, who may not answer, or to your supervisor, who may not answer, to your HRBP. We want you to explore those first. If those don't work, and you're still trying to figure it out, you can make a phone call to me, because once it gets an Ethics Point, it is fully escalated. And some of the things that have become fully escalated are issues that may not have been needed to be escalated. But at the time, we were dealing with a crisis. So I take responsibility for that. And we had to come up with a way to see what was out there. And that was what we could have done immediately. So I'm not reversing. Ethics Point is still fully available to you if you do not believe you are getting an answer to a question that you have or a concern, or if the issue relates to clear financial fraud, waste, and abuse, etc. Outside of that, we want you, your business partners, HR, your unit managers, your unit supervisors, push them to give you answers to questions. In turn, managers, supervisors, senior leadership, you have to be open to answering those questions when they come up the chain so that people feel that they're getting the answers that they need. When all else fails, even you can go to Ethics Point, but even before you go to Ethics Point, you can you can call me. I'm going to regret saying that, aren't I? You can always call Aisha and say, Aisha, this is what I'm dealing with. Is this something I should put into Ethics Point? And we can have a discussion. I can share with you what it means putting it to Ethics Point, and then you can make a decision. It may be then you share something with me and say, you know what? Let me make a phone call to Jim Fortner and discuss it. Or let me make a phone call to Mark and discuss it and get back to you. And you may get a resolution from a different avenue before it gets escalated. But once you put it in Ethics Point, it is fully escalated. It is now in the USG. They see it. When I say fully escalated, everybody now sees it. And we want you guys, we're not trying to chill Ethics Point. We want you to use it. But we want to be efficient so that when we're triaging and investigating cases, we're dealing with high priority. We need to deal with this issue type of cases at the senior leadership level. So until it gets to that, we would prefer that you exercise all options. Because what we've seen sometimes is that an issue will come into Ethics Point, and we will just go to the manager immediately above you, and they would have had no clue that this was happening. And now they've been blindsided with an Ethics Point complaint. So I have this thing that I say. I want you to take your concerns, and when you have a concern, treat the person or the persons, unless they've shown you otherwise and clearly shown you otherwise, treat them in the light most favorable to them, that they have an interest in doing the right thing until they show you otherwise. And if we can all do that, that even when I make a complaint to my supervisor views me as doing in the light most favorable to me, that I'm just trying to understand, or I want an answer to this question. We create a culture where there's more dialogue before things become exploded into an unethical situation, because then everybody gets tense and everybody gets angry, and then it takes a while for us to move through some cases, which, if it had been handled at a management level, it might have been closed quicker than going through a process where we have to triage, and we have to follow a process, right? We don't get an Ethics Point complaint and assume it's frivolous. We can't do that. Now that it's been an Ethics Point, we have to take a look at it. We have to review it. We need to talk to everybody concerned so that we have done our due diligence. And that takes a while. So I'm encouraging everybody, use all the resources on campus, including Ethics Point, to make your complaints.
Thank you. Mark, did you want to
I
add
was just going
something?
to say, Aisha, isn't it also true that in addition to full escalation becomes visible to USG, that it also then becomes subject to open records requests in many cases? And so you have to consider that if you're going to take it to that level as well, is, who's going to be subject to open records requests and whose name's going to appear on these things.
So we just have a couple minutes left. A few more questions. We have one right up here in the front. And then if there are any other questions to close us out.
So this question is a follow-up to Ms. Oliver Staley's talk about Ethics Point. What piece of advice would the executive management have for employees, staff, or affiliates for Georgia Tech who are repressed or oppressed on using Ethics Point because they feel afraid what they have observed is unethical or not meeting the standards of the institute, but are being repressed from using Ethics Point or any other sort of resource by their management or some other party? What piece of advice would you have for those employees?
This is easy. Nobody on campus is allowed to prohibit anybody else on campus from using Ethics Point. So if somebody has told you not to use Ethics Point, I'm not telling you not to use Ethics Point. If somebody has told you not to use Ethics Point, that is not a mandate that comes from senior leadership. And senior leadership, we want to deal with issues. Well, we do, but in context, but right. So there's no mandate not to put things in Ethics Point. The mandate is let's try to use all the resources available to us. If you feel that you're in a situation, like I said, where you are justifiably convinced that your management will not do something, Ethics Point is available to you. A phone call is also available to you. You can always call Aisha. Always.
Questions? Julie, right behind you.
And Julie. I think that's why she raised her hand.
This question, though, Julie Joyce from DTHR, is kind of a setup question. I've had conversations with either each of you directly or indirectly that were really helpful on ethical conduct versus conduct that's against policy or law. There's clearly a bias towards we want people to not just follow policy, but also think about what's right, what's good, in the best interest of the institute. What steps have we taken? I know we have to bring that as part of our values and practices and policies at Georgia Tech.
I think a lot of it is a work in progress right now with the values work that's happening, but it's something that we've recognized just that it's not just policy compliance, but it's the ethical underpinning of everything that we do. I thought about this recently, and I haven't thought about it in years. My mother told me before I went to school on day one, she told me do these three things today: be nice, be respectful, and don't touch other people. and it's those first two. Last one was just for me. My mother knew me all too well. Be respectful, and respecting each other, man, that goes so far, and that will keep us. If we respect each other's opinions and our employees, supervisors alike, that will take us, 9/10 of the way, and being comfortable in raising your hand and asking a question whenever you don't understand something, and having, the supervisor being respectful enough to provide a thoughtful answer. That's so important because we operate in a complex environment. It's real easy to step across a line that you didn't realize or you forgot about. And we can all use that second set of eyes, and treating it that way such that it's welcomed and it's not seen as a challenge or an issue, I think is so important. But back to your question, we do realize it's not just policy compliance. Now we need to consider that, and that's what the training is all about. It's what the campus guidance is all about. But that won't get to ethics. That's something else. And I think through the work of the identifying the values, identifying a common set of values that become top of mind that we can all just kind of regurgitate and think through as we're doing our daily jobs and giving talks and things like that will go a long ways in accomplishing that.
And I want to add that policy should not be used as a cover for unethical behavior. So for example, policy allows for reorganizations. You can reorganize your unit once you follow the appropriate steps. But a reorganization should not be used as a shield to demote somebody that you don't want to have a difficult conversation with. That is unethical. So while we want you to follow policy, we do not want policy, because that's what we see in some cases. Policy should not be used as a guise to mask unethical behavior. That is all.
All right, we are out of time. But I want to thank you all for being here and those who are watching, but also let you know, as you know, President Peterson announced he will be stepping down as president sometime this summer once we have a new president named. But ethics and compliance and the focus on that will not go away. This is something that he is passionate about. We are going to keep talking about this. We're already talking about ideas for another event like this, but focusing more on policies, having some of our policy owners here to talk about different policies that there are a lot of questions about right now, especially meals, entertainment, food, vendors, those type things. So look for that. We'll be planning some of that. And then understand that the annual compliance campaign is coming up. And so you will be getting your emails about that. Please take those seriously. Please block off the time that you need to watch the videos or do whatever it is that you need to do to finish the compliance campaign for this year. And thank you all very much for being here. Thanks to our panelists.
All right,